Yo, it's your boy TTK and welcome back to another Pokemon video. It's been a while since we last done a Draft League video. Well, the reason for that is because I haven't really been playing Draft recently. It's just that I've been busy, as you all know. I've been very busy these last couple of weeks, so I haven't really had time to really play drafts. But there is this one draft that I'm in that I am playing, which is called the Draft Winter Classic. It's basically a draft league for all of like the draft league communities. Well, not all of them, but like specific draft league communities. They basically get their, best players and basically battle it out in the draft league to see who has the best draft league community, essentially. So yeah, if you guys remember the last draft leagues I was in, aka DBA, I'm representing DBA, and yeah, it's been a pretty fun time. If we look at the standings now, DBA is first with 3 weeks, 1 out of 3, and soon to be 4, to be honest. But yeah, we're doing pretty well. But either way, gonna be basically going over my draft, basically, and the last game that I played just today. To be honest, I didn't get to record it because I basically had to like rush to play the game, to be fair. But yeah, gonna be going over that replay and all that good stuff. But either way, if you guys enjoyed the draft league content or any of my videos that you've seen, consider subscribing to the channel, join the kingdom. On our way to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. Much appreciated. But either way, I'm going to leave timestamps in the description if you guys want to see the replay, rather than me talking about my draft plan and the prep for the game. You guys can do that. But yeah, let's look at it right now. So oops, wrong page. So either way, this is my draft. Hopefully you can all see that on the left hand side. Timman, yeah, that's me, Toy Time King. But either way, yeah, so this is my draft, and I'm basically just gonna explain why I chose all of these guys. Alright, for the first Pokemon that I decided to draft out of, that I wanted to use was Megalopony. Now, Megalopony is probably one of my favorite Megas to use in draft. I think it's the best Mega in draft still after 10, like after 2 gens, 4 gens, whatever, like generation 7 when they got CC, or was it Gen 8? I can't remember. Either way, it got no, it wasn't Gen 7. It was Gen 8 where Lopunny got CC, and that really helped out Megalopony. But either way, why is Megalopony so good in draft? High attack, high speed. That's all you really need. An ability that bypasses, the immunity that normal fighting can't hit, and you have a perfect offensive Pokemon, to be honest. Lopunny just does a lot, and even with the Power Creep or Generation 9, with some of these speed tiers getting out of control from Pokemon like Fluttermane, Chien-Pao, mainly those two are like gonna get banned in draft most likely, but you have things like Iron Bundle, like you can just see that the overall speed of everything has increased, and Lopunny is still up there with those guys, and it's just very good to have on your team. Hits hard, high power stabs in return and CC, has really good utility options ranging from U-turn, and it also just has really solid coverage to really just nuke anything that it really wants to nuke. Triple Axle tends to be a bit standard, but hits flying types. You can run Fire Punch to get Sizzle. You have Ice Punch, well, not Ice Punch, you have Triple Axle, but you have Thunder Punch for like Pelipper and like Toxapex. You just have a lot of really good options that you can run on this guy, and you even have Healing Wish and other utility options like Thunder Wave, and like you can just really get a lot done with Megalopony. And if anyone's ever used it in draft, they know that it's always going to be a high pointer and whatnot. And as you can see, Megalopony is like 17 points out of I believe it was 20 points, or yeah, it was 20 points, so, or 19, I can't remember, but yeah, it's one of the top mons, so you have to respect it. Next thing up, I wanted defensive Pokemon, and Zapdos pairs really well with Megalopony for a couple of reasons. Now, Zapdos only has 2 weaknesses to Rock and Ice. Megalopony resists Rock, and Megalopony also threatens Ice types for super effective damage. Zapdos, Megalopony is still weak to fighting, so Zapdos is a pretty solid fighting resist and still one of the best defensive Pokemon to ever exist, to be honest. Like excluding Generation 5, Generation 5 was a bit of a weird one for Zapdos. It's always been an OU level threat, and it's not always usage based tiering that comes into play when they're on draft, but it just goes to show how Power Creep has not affected Zapdos in the slightest, despite the fact that even in SV metas that it lost Defog and it lost Toxic. But this is a Natdex draft, so obviously Zapdos still has Defog and Toxic, and it's basically just the perfect mon throughout the generations in the Natdex format. So yeah. Zapdos was very solid. Like, why is it good as a defensive Pokemon? Well, it has pretty much equal bulk on both the physical and special side. It's also not slow as hell for a defensive wall. Like, or defensive Zapdos has base 100 speed. A lot of offensive Pokemon themselves only reach that stage of speed, and Zapdos just has it when it can just easily run, you know, a defensive spread. So that means for slower Pokemon, Zapdos could always just add a little bit of speed into speed creep in certain threats, maybe around the base 70, base, you know, 60 speed tiers, where you're able to speed creep those guys with like minimal speed investment. Then you also have static, which is the ability of all time. So, you know, you're gonna punish the fighting switch-ins that, you know, they close combat into you, take like maybe 20, 25 depending on the Pokemon, and then, you know, you just get static paralysis and they're basically just dead for the rest of the game as an offensive mon. So yeah, having Zapdos like that is pretty good. So yeah, next mon I decided was Goldengo. Now you'll see why Goldengo was chosen here, because of the later Pokemon that I picked. But either way, Goldengo, one of the most solid Pokemon in Generation 9. You know, its ability is broken. It's just a very solid mon. Also another, you know, fighting immunity, excluding Megalopony of course, but obviously I have Zapdos to handle opposing Megalopony if the situation arises. So yeah, Goldengo needed a special attacker. Steel type is very useful. Having any sort of fairy answer is always good in draft, because the fairy types are going to be common to handle the dragon types, and Goldengo's steel typing, you know, allows it to do that. It's also just very threatening offensively. Like, I do like having a steel type, but, you know, most of the time I always go for, you know, defensive options and never really offensive options. Like, I don't draft Sizzle too often. I don't draft, I can't even think of any other steel types at the top of my head. Metagross, but Metagross in draft is probably going to be good now, because, or a decent like low tier steel, because it has knockoff now and Psychic Fang. So yeah, Metagross will be very dangerous. But yeah, speaking about Goldengo, just has Nasty Plot, has Recover, you know, has good options in Thunder Wave, can run Choice Scarf, Choice Specs. Like, trying to handle Goldengo defensively is a very tall order for certain drafts, and having Goldengo is solid for that, because 133 special attack, get a +2. You're just basically nuking everything with your stabs, which are Shadow Ball and Make It Rain. Make It Rain especially, because Steel is decently offensively. Like, doesn't really hit too many types for super effective damage. It's only Fairy, Ice and Rock, but at the same time not too many types resist Steel. Like, you have Fire, Steel itself, Water, Electric. Well, that's a decent amount actually, but it's only 4 out of 18 types. Like, it's not too bad. So yeah, it complements well with its Ghost typing, which only has Dark and normal resisting Ghost. So yeah, Goldengo is a very solid offensive threat, and also a decent like support option mon as well, because with hazards, you know, they try and defog on you, you can't defog. They try and spin on you, they can't spin. So yeah, having a pretty hazard centric draft around Goldengo is why it's such a valuable Pokemon to have. Now onto Mudsdale. Now Mudsdale is an interesting pick for me. I always like my low tier grounds. I like Sandaconda. If you guys kept up with like my lower tier performance in the Smogon lower tier draft when I made it to top 32, Sandaconda was a pretty solid option for me, but one of my teammates took Sandaconda, I believe. If I look at it properly, I mean, I could always just control F. Yeah, so as you can see, my teammate here took Sandaconda. And the thing is, with this draft, so we have 10 players playing the game, and yeah, like, we can't use the same Pokemon. So once someone takes like Sandaconda, for example, I can't use Sandaconda. So obviously at that point I was like, I need to find a low tier ground. I already have 3 really expensive picks here, Megalop, Goldengo and Zapdos, and I'm like, yeah, I need a low tier ground that isn't Sandaconda. So Mudsdale, pretty much the closest comparison to Sandaconda, both pure ground types, both have rocks and pretty decent utility options. Mudsdale makes it out with stamina, which basically means that physical attackers eventually just can't really check it or beat it 1v1, because it's always going to be getting a defense boost, and it still has solid special defense in its own right with a decent HP stat of 100, while Sandaconda is much faster. You know, it has like base 71 or 72 speed if I recall. Also has Glare, which is a broken move. I know from using Sandaconda in low tier draft that you know, Glare is a broken move. But yeah, Mudsdale, they're both pretty comparable in terms of viability in draft, I feel. It's just that Glare is probably a bit more useful in the long run for Sandaconda than what Mudsdale has, because the worst that you can really do with a Mudsdale is like Toxic, and obviously you have Body Press, which really complements itself well with Stamina, getting a defense boost, meaning that Body Press is just going to do a lot of damage, which, you know, you still have a good attack stat of 125 to utilize, you know, Earthquake damage. And yeah, it's going to be my main rocker and a ground type, which is pretty much mandatory to have in draft. I don't think I've ever really seen a groundless draft ever, really. Like, it's just really important to have that. Like, let's say I was to face Regieleki, for example. You know, Regieleki is like so fast that most Scarfers, like common Scarfers, just don't outspeed it at maximum speed. So like, if you lacked a ground type, then, you know, it's just gonna like 6-0 your team. They might have a, you know, Tapu Koko Regieleki core with Verizon Voltage, and you just get 6-0'd. So yeah, having a ground type is very important. Now on to the next mon, which will synergize well with Goldengo as well, is Hisuian Samurott. Now Hisuian Samurott is the GOAT. Don't get it twisted, Samurai Sam. You know, we have Hisuian Samurott. This is how you buff a starter that pretty much had no relevance at all in the grand scheme of things, because Samurott on its own was a really... I wouldn't say it was a bad Pokemon, because like bad depends on like the context you're giving bad. Like in the OU context, yeah, Samurott like sucks. Like it's too slow, doesn't do enough damage, and there's just better offensive water types to use. Maybe and Samurott has always thrived in the lower tiers. Like it's always either been banned from PU or just stayed in NU. And you know, Hisuian Samurott is a pretty solid Pokemon, because you have one of the most broken moves in the game, Ceaseless Edge. You also have one of the freest moves in the game, Knockoff, and you know, you're just a very solid you know, offensive Pokemon, despite your average speed tier and, you know, average bulk. Like Samurott gets away with it because it has two really strong moves. Its stabs are pretty much ridiculous. Its ability also boosts its damage output to insane levels. Also comes with priority in Aqua Jet and Sucker Punch. And yeah, Hisuian Samurott is just a very dangerous Pokemon that you also have to respect. And you know, you're clicking Ceaseless Edge, boom, you get a Spike up. You know, you get 3 spikes up, they try and defog or spin, Goldengo's here, and you know, you have to respect it, because either you want to go boot spam to prevent, you know, your mons taking insane damage from spikes, 25% on switching with 3 spikes up, or you know, you realize that boots really hinders my versatility in terms of trying to tackle certain drafts, and like you just kind of have to firm the fact that you're not going to be getting hazards off anyway, so try and play the fast game. So yeah, for Samurott being able to force that stuff works well with Goldengo, have Mudsdale as the rocker, and yeah, it's pretty solid stuff. Now on to my next picks. I'm also just forgetting my team, but yeah, we have 5 out of 8 here. What else? Yeah, Salazzle. Now these are like the perfect 6 in my opinion. Like these guys are the bread and butter of my team. Now Salazzle, I also needed a pretty fast one. Like even though Megalopony stands at 135 base speed, I still needed something in between that and Zapdos, considering the fact that Zapdos isn't always going to be running maximum speed. So having that in between 100 and 135, which Salazzle is pretty much just halfway through if you consider the halfway point between 100 and 135. Salazzle is pretty much bang in the middle of that, because 117.5. Well yeah, quick maths. Well yeah, regardless, yeah, Salazzle is in the midpoint of that speed tier between Zapdos and you know, Megalopony. And the good thing about Salazzle is that, you know, 117 is a pretty solid speed tier. It's a pretty interesting benchmark, because you get past the 115 speed benchmark, which has been pretty relevant since like the time of Generation 2. You know, Raikou was standing at 115 speed, and you also get the one up on, you know, Valiant, which is standing at 116 speed, and also things like Whimsicott, which share that speed. Surprisingly, I do face Whimsicott in the replay that I'm going to be going over later in this video. But yeah, getting past those two, pretty relevant. Getting past the bevy of 115 Pokemon, also really solid. So yeah, what does Salazzle offer to my team? It offers a fire type. I like rounding up, you know, the water fire grass core. You'll see the grass type that I drafted, you know, after I speak about Salazzle. But yeah, having a fire type is pretty good. Break, steals, pretty solid stuff. Poison, grounded poison, not a necessity on most teams, but something that you really appreciate having, because toxic spikes are dangerous for teams that don't have a grounded poison, because once they get up the toxic spike, you kind of have to prioritize getting them off the field, because your defensive Pokemon taking 2 toxic spikes mean that they're badly toxic, which means that they're on a timer. Eventually toxic is going to kill them. But if you, even if you get a 1T spike, losing 12% of your HP is not something that you want your defensive monster to have, especially the fact that I'm on like Mudsdale that lacks recovery outside of rest, and you might not be able to fit rest. That means that mon is going to get worn down pretty easily, especially if there's a toxic spike up. So yeah, Salazzle being able to get rid of them while also doing that itself is also pretty solid. Corrosion is also a pretty underrated ability. Salazzle being able to toxic the likes of steel types that are able to switch in on it, like Empoleon for example, very solid thing to have. Also has good utility in knockoff, and yeah, as an offensive Pokemon is just very threatening with 111 attack, special attack, and its dual style combination. So yeah, these 6 are probably my bread and butter of the team. They're pretty solid. Yeah, and having the power of rocks, toxic spikes, and spikes with a Goldengo means that you know, opposing drafts are gonna have a pretty tough time, you know, getting rid of them. But yeah, on to my last 2 Pokemon. They're a bit of the stinkers, to be fair, but at first I'm going to start off with Shiinotic. Now, Shiinotic is a pretty flawed defensive Pokemon, I'll be honest, but I didn't need a grass type, and like usually I would have gone for like something like Gloom. Gloom has done me very well in draft, despite the fact it's an NFE Pokemon, but yeah, I had to go Shiinotic because having a Fairy type would have been nice. Yeah, having a Fairy type is nice for dragons, and you know, ground type gives me like another ground immunity, considering the fact that I have Goldengo and Salazzle as Pokemon weak to ground. So yeah, having Shiinotic as the ground resist is also pretty solid, because like you do want to, like, you always want a ground immunity, which is why I have Zapdos in the first place, but also having a ground resist is also pretty nice as well, because flying can be exploited by anything that has Earthquake. Most likely has Stone Edge, so you know, having a grass type to resist EQ and not be afraid of Stone Edge is also really nice. But yeah, the issue with Shiinotic is that it's just not bulky enough, to be honest. Like, its HP stat is much too low, like base 60. Like, if it had base 80 or base 90, like, I would respect Shiinotic a bit more, but it's just not that, you know, bulky in the long run. But it does have Spore, does have Strength Sap. Like, it will be a decent check for the Dragons, unless they pack, like, Poison Jab coverage, which, you know, Shiinotic is times 4 weak to, so it's a bit tough. But yeah, you also have Effect Spore, which, you know, can cheese people with, like, paralysis or, poison, which is pretty nice, and also sleep, but you also have Spore, so you don't have to worry about the sleep. Then it also has recovery and Strength Sap, so yeah, that's pretty solid. I believe Shiinotic is 2 points, so yeah, it's not anything that anyone has to rate, but it's just an option that I have here because, you know, I do need a Fairy type, and I do like having a grass type to round out the Water Fire Grass core, because they just balance out each other's weaknesses, and you know, they complement each other quite well. But yeah, on to my last Pokemon, which is Kamala. Now, looking at my team, like, I do have a normal type already, but Kamala is a secondary hazard removal option in Rapid Spin. Also has a really, like, deceptively high attack stat for what it looks like. Base 115 makes sure that Kamala is not passive in the slightest, with good disruption options and knockoff. It has Comatose, so it can pretty much switch in on all status moves. You know, I also have access to Sleep Talk Last Resort, which I hope one day I'm able to bring into a game with like a Choice Band or Choice Scarf, but you know, it has just much more utility options outside of that. It has Super Fang, it has U-Turn, it has Yawn, it has Wish. Like, I think for 4 points it's a steal, and the one time that I'm able to bring this mod into a game, whether that's using a Curse set or a Bulk Up set or like Assault Vest or anything, or a Spelef set, like, Kamala will be putting in the work. So yeah, that is my draft, guys, and we're basically going to be going over the matchup that I had this week against the teams from SGBL. So yeah, see you then. Alright, so this is the matchup that I had for this week versus the player per turbo of the SGBL. So yeah, looking at this matchup here, I was a bit worried because they had a Mega Gallade, they also had a Goldengo. Tinglu also is just a very annoying Pokemon to deal with, despite the fact that I have a Samurott and a Mega Lopunny to pressure offensively. Then they also have like Regieleki and stuff, and I'm just like, Regieleki is like a non-issue as long as Mudsdale is alive. Like, every time you have a ground type, don't be afraid of the Regieleki, just be afraid of the Regieleki when your ground type is dead. But regardless, you know, looking at the game, I basically had to think about having to switch into Mega Gallade, making sure Goldengo doesn't get out of hand, but like, Goldengo is pretty much pressured offensively by Mega Lopunny, Salazzle, Samurott, all Pokemon faster than Goldengo. I also have my own Goldengo, so you know, I'm not too worried about that Goldengo, but yeah, it's just something I have to consider, especially if it gets like a nasty plot up or its choice specs. Like, I'm pretty much not gonna have any switch-ins to make it rain if it's choice specs or just the dual style combination of Goldengo. Another one I was worried, like realistically I was just worried about the Mega Gallade, so I had to basically just be like Zapdos is coming and stuff like that. But the thing I like about 8-mon draft is the fact that you know, you only have to bench 2 mons. Like I already know what 6 I was bringing just looking at this guy's team, and I could also tell what 6 they were bringing other than and the 2 that they were going to bench. So yeah, looking at the team, let's look at the team that I decided to end up bringing in the first place. Alright, so this is the team that I decided to bring against Perturbo here. So we decided to go Mega Lopunny, Zapdos, Mudsdale, Goldengo, Hisuian, Samurott, and Salazzle. Now I'm gonna test you guys a little bit. There's one Achilles heel of my opponent's draft that I took advantage of in the replay. So before we get to the replay, if you guys notice what the biggest issue of the opponent's draft was that I was able to capitalize on even before watching the replay or after the replay, type down below in the comment section and I'll see if you guys actually know your draft stuff. But regardless, yeah, let's look at the team. So Mega Lopunny running enough speed to outspeed Talonflame. To be honest, Talonflame's not a mon I really want to stay in on because Triple Axel is neutral, and Triple Axel is also for if you look at the opponent's team, Triple Axel was also just for Whimsicott, Flygon, Tinglu. I mean, I'm CCing Tinglu, but it's more for Whimsicott and, you know, Flygon, even though I doubt they'll bring in Flygon regardless. But yeah, just having enough speed for Talonflame. And again, I don't want to stay in on it because Flame Body. But yeah, you can revenge kill it because you're also faster than it. And assuming they're not at full HP, and I doubt they would have gone Gale Wings anyway, yeah, you just kill it anyway. So Zapdos is here, max defense Zapdos. We need something to switch into Mega Gallade. Now you're probably thinking, oh, Mega Gallade has Triple Axel, aren't you just nuked? Well, Triple Axel is 3 hits to proc static. Like, the odds are not in their favor, and obviously if I switch into 1cc, I don't think they're willing to risk Triple Axel either getting 1 hit or, you know, 3 hits and is paralyzing the Mega Gallade, which basically takes out of the game. Yeah, so Zapdos is max defense here. We have Defog in the case that we're able to actually Defog if they try and get up spikes with Tinglu. Mudsdale next, ground type. I'm not bringing Mudsdale when there's a Regieleki on the other side of the field. Also max defense, somewhat handles Mega Gallade as well. You're not too cured by CC last time I checked. You might be, but I don't think you are. But yeah, offers rocks, you know, Goldengo combination, just get all the rocks, and they're mainly here to stay. So yeah. Body press, boost to stamina, like I mentioned earlier. We have Mr. 1000 Goldengo here with the choice scarf. No, I need some speed control on this team, certainly. This also revenge kills Mega Gallade, because Mega Gallade will have knockoff to nuke Goldengo, so being faster than that and being able to hit it with a super effective Shadow Ball is also nice. And in the case that they go their own Scarf or Goldengo, or like some setup set, I can also just revenge kill it. We have Samurai Sam here with the Black Glasses SD. This set is going to put in a lot of work, I know. Aqua Cutter over Razor Shell, because Aqua Cut is a non-contact move, which is pretty solid for not proccing, you know, Talonflame's Flame Body, for example, and still does. It's only 5 base power difference between Aqua Cutter and Razor Shell, and still gets boosted by Sharpness by the end of the day, and it doesn't miss, so who cares? High crit rate, so it could come into play. So yeah, also this is also running max speed. I would have liked to speed creep something, but this thing only being 1 point faster than Goldengo means that I basically have to run max speed. And then the last one is Salazzle. We're going Toxic Spikes here over Toxic Knockoff for knocking off people's items. Max HP here just because we don't really need Salazzle's offensive power. Like, Fire Blast is still going to nuke Goldengo. We have other Goldengo answers, and, you know, Sludge Bomb here to proc a 30% poison if we can. But yeah, that is it. Let's finally get onto the replay, and I'll see you guys then. Alright, so we have the replay now against Perturbo here, and you know, for those that skipped all of the draft talk, welcome back to the video. And for those that actually watched me explain my draft, shout out to you, you're the GOAT. But yeah, here's the team. This was basically what I was expecting. I might have expected Regieleki, but I guess they saw that ground type, you know, priority. Yeah, let's not bring it. And then Flygon, I don't think Flygon had any business coming this game, unfortunately. I love Flygon, obviously, it's my favorite Pokemon, but at the same time, yeah, it just wasn't really doing too much, and this was the 6 I was basically expecting. In terms of the lead matchup here, I was just like, because I could easily lead over Mega Lopunny, get my Mega up, fake out something, but you know, that could obviously lead into the Talonflame route where they just go Talonflame on the fake out, try and fish for Flame Body Burn, and yeah, that would have been disastrous. But either way, I thought Samurott was my best lead because I don't think they were going to lead off with Gallade, nor did I think they'll lead off with anything else. But yeah, let's see how wrong I was. So yeah, I lead off with Samurai Sam here. They go Whimsicott and I'm like, yay, great, best lead ever. So yeah, I go with my Salazzle here. I was expecting maybe a Stun Spore, that would have been a bit annoying. But yeah, I go up with T-Spike. They surprisingly stay in. I was like, if they stayed in, they might click Psychic, but they just decide to U-turn. They go Talonflame here, and I'm just like, cool, I'm willing to stay in because you don't kill me. And, you know, maybe fish for a Sludge Bomb poison, which doesn't happen. But, you know, that's fine. I have Zapdos as the switch into Talonflame, but they decide to Roost, and I'm just like, you know, Zapdos is here to stay. So yeah, Whimsicott comes in on a Hurricane. I obviously just predicted that. I mean, it was more for Tinglu more than Whimsicott, but them giving me Whimsicott that early, pretty solid stuff, because that could have potentially been their defogger. Like, look at the hazard removal potential on their team. Half their team has access to hazard removal options, whether that's defog Talonflame, Rapid Swing Blastoise, or defog Whimsicott. But seeing the fact that Talonflame didn't click defog, I assumed that Whimsicott had the defog, and you know, now I can't click it anymore. So T-Spike goes brrr. So yeah, Tinglu comes out, gets poisoned, you know, Vessel of Ruin, all that good stuff. I decided to go into Samurott because I know they're just going to click Spike or Stealth Rock or something. But at this point, Samurai Sam is here to, you know, cut down its enemies because it has SD. So Tinglu doing 50 is insane. I wasn't expecting the 50%, but 110 attack with Earthquake does that to you. So yeah, Aqua Cutter gets the crit. Don't think it mattered realistically. I was running the numbers. I Sucker Punch the Talonflame, don't get burned, and you know, pretty solid stuff. And now they have Gallade. Now here was the interesting term, because you're probably thinking, oh, Samurott just 6-0s now. But in the case that they decided to SD on my if they decided to SD on my Sucker Punch, yeah, it would have been a bit long if they were like CC. But at the end of the day, I think I would have just beaten Gallade anyway. Like, I probably had to sack a couple of mons, but I still think I was able to do it in the end. But in this in the game battle, I was just like, like, Sucker Punch doesn't even guaranteed kill. I ran the numbers, does like 98, but even then, I probably could have clicked Sucker Punch and it would have died to poison anyway. So yeah, I just decided to kick Ceaseless Edge here, and you know, Samurott dies. So yeah, could have gone the Samurott sweep, but you know, what can I say? I wanted to play the game safe. So yeah, either way, Lopunny can come in, return at -1 defense, just kills. I was about to fake out, then remembered this thing has inner focused, so that would have been a massive choke. But yeah, they go Goldengo on. They reveal air balloons. I'm just like, cool, CC's just gonna kill you. I was just like, maybe it could have been Choice Scarf. Maybe I would have been in a bit of danger. Who knows? But yeah. So you go Blastoise, and at this point, you know, the T-Spike has already done wonders. I click CC, does 75%, which is pretty solid damage, and then they, you know, Shell Smash here. So at this point, I'm just like, I'm gonna go sack Salazzle. It didn't really matter what mon I sacked because Poison was gonna kill them this turn anyway. So I just decided to give them Salazzle. So they go for the Aura Sphere, which just made me think, oh man, I could have gone Zapdos on the Aura Sphere and I would have gotten the 5-0 instead of the 4-0. But regardless, we managed to get the win there. Shout out to Hisu and Samurott, my boy Samurott Sam, putting in the work. But yeah, that's exactly how I expected that game to go. If you guys didn't really figure out the Achilles heel of my opponent's draft, they don't have a grounded poison type. So what that means is that you just get a T-Spike up and boom. You know, each of them ones are on the timer. Now you could say, well, they have pretty solid removal options for them to not to warrant them not having a grounded poison. But at the same time, Blastoise wasn't boots. Whimsicott, I'm pretty sure Whimsicott wasn't boots. I mean, we didn't get, was it boots? What's the Whimsicott boots? Oh, well, we never got, no, we did get to see it. So, Whimsicott wasn't even boots. Again, like, you might have, like, half your draft or almost half your draft having removal options. But it doesn't matter because you weren't running boots. So, yeah, that was the Achilles heel of my opponent's draft. If you noticed that and type that down below in the comments, much appreciated. But, yeah, that will be it. So, if I'm not benched next week, I lost 2 weeks ago, but I got hacked, so, you know, it wasn't really a bad loss. But yeah, if I get benched next week, I probably won't record the thing next week. But regardless, if I am playing next week, I will just, you know, upload the game live. So yeah, want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel, join the kingdom, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.